Welcome back to the Road Race Report Podcast Network. Today we're going to do a Ridge Motorsports Park track breakdown. We're going to try to do these for all the rounds. We've done a few. We did Barber. Excited to work through the Ridge with Cody Wyman. Cody Wyman of Champ School. This episode is brought to you by Champ School. We greatly appreciate our friends at Champ School. Whether you're trying to shave seconds off your lap time, become a smoother street rider, or just understand why the best riders do what they do, Champ U and Yamaha Champions Riding School give you direct access to the same principles taught to professionals and everyday riders alike. From vision and brake release to throttle timing and bike placement, it's one of the best tools out there for riders looking to build real confidence and real understanding on a motorcycle. You can learn more about Champ U and the full Yamaha Champions Riding School program at champu.org or ridelikeachampion.com. This episode is also brought to you by KYT Helmets. KYT Helmets is just signed on with us. If you haven't seen KYT Helmets, you must not have been watching Moto America. They have been kind of taking the paddock by storm. Plenty of riders in the paddock wearing KYT. KYT helmets are built with race-winning technology and trusted by riders at the highest level of motorcycle competition. KYT deliver protection, performance, and comfort that serious riders demand. From the racetrack to your favorite back road, KYT combines advanced aerodynamics, lightweight construction, and premium safety standards into every helmet they produce. If you're looking for your next helmet, check out the full KYT lineup at kytamericas.com and see why so many riders in the Moto America paddock have made the switch. KYT helmets, designed for racing, built for riders. Thanks again to KYT. They reached out after our podcast appearance on Pipe Dreams. If you haven't seen that, give it a listen. It breaks down what we've got going on over here, what we're trying to build. Super thankful to Corey and James from Pipe Dreams. They do amazing podcasts. They had Kenny Roberts on as well just recently, and that is totally worth a listen. Have a listen to that. If you'd like to support us and what we do at Road Race Report, we've got merch live on the site. Your support funds our trip to the races to bring you this content, and we greatly appreciate it. Without further ado, let's break down the track for Ridge Motorsports Park. All right, Cody Wyman, welcome in. It's another track review, this time with Ridge Motorsports Park. I'm heading there here in about 3 or 4 hours, head to the airport. So how are you, Cody?
Good, man. Yeah, thanks for having me again. Back in the States and see how the rest of this Moto America season goes.
Yeah, sweet. Cool, dude. Let's jump right into it. I'm going to pull up the lap here. In 2021, this was the WIMRA lap record at the Ridge. It's just a clean front facing view. Let's walk through it.
Yeah, it's a good guy to watch. Yeah, so using that bridge almost every lap into the Moto America chicane, and then a lot of riders are jumping that first curbing, then kind of going curb to curb. It's honestly, I think it's a lot of the riders' favorite tracks when they go to see this config, and service is really good. It's fast, and I feel like it kind of flows maybe up until that final sector.
Yeah, gets a little tight for sure.
Yeah, you got a ton of time on the edge of the tire here through this carousel. And then using that water tank is a great reference for this little brake compression. This becomes a pretty big exit out of here, using all the track and then climbing the hill. And this is how hard can you send it up the hill and bring it back. This is probably one of the best corners. Decreasing radius. You'll see all the track day riders really struggling with that one, and we'll talk about that. And yeah, just kind of back and forth here, and one of the rare straightaways that you have here.
Yep.
Into what I think is the slowest corner on the whole Moto America calendar. I think they call this the waterfall down the hill, and we'll talk about this section here too. Let it drift out, and then just looking for a straight line to get a good drive and then start the next lap.
Sweet.
So yeah, I think every lap using that bridge as some sort of a reference, whether it's before it, right on it, a little bit after it, depending on what bike you're on. And anytime there's overhang, you know, walkways, bridges, any sort of branding that's right over the track, obviously that becomes a hard reference that riders will be using every lap. Um, I kind of think of the penultimate corner at Road America. There used to be there's this overhang that you would just kind of use every lap, whether if it was for a shift point or as I started bringing it back over left. So having these hard references right kind of in our face,
Yep.
that makes it pretty easy. I also think those are some of the rare things we use for with peripheral vision. A lot of riders think about, well, I'm using my peripheral vision for that. And I think I'm mainly just using my peripherals for references, whether it's brake markers, bridges, signs,
Yeah.
things like that that really aren't going to move. But yeah, Ridge always made for some good racing as well, kind of in all the classes. So excited to see how everything goes this weekend.
Yeah, it should be good. Let's walk through here. It's funny you were mentioning the those hard points. Like I always think of Road Atlanta as one of those, right? Coming under the bridge, like getting pointed down into the final corners, like gotta be one of the more prominent ones on the calendar. So uh yeah, it's cool to hear. Let's dive into a lap around this place. Obviously a counterclockwise circuit. And like you said, super busy, rare breathing time for a straightaway and ton of time on the edge of the tire. Let's rip through the track map.
Yeah, so we consider in Moto America, on the map here, turns one and two, and then they add the Moto America chicane, which even at track days, sometimes with bikes they won't run it. So it just becomes super high speed, pretty fun driving into turn one with no chicane. Uh, the things can get kind of tough. Uh, you do a track day there where there's no chicane, and you go into turn one and you just see parts of motorcycles, and they'll just leave them out there all day. Um, but we're coming up, start finish. Like I was talking about, using the bridge, and then you got this Moto America chicane, little left, right. When you walk the track, you notice how uphill it is between the left coming up into the right of the chicane. Um, so we're on the brakes and we're usually out over that paint. In that lap, there were cones that were kind of using the edge of the track, but usually we're getting up over the paint and starting this big, long, slow tip into the chicane. And you'll see a lot of riders jumping that first inside curbing. It's just a little bit less bumpy, and the paint was always kind of grippy. So if we can kind of shortcut that first left of the chicane a little bit more, and then on a super bike, I think we might accelerate, brush the brakes for the right, and then get back on the throttle. But even Matty Skoltz on his R9 was coming through the chicane, just shutting the throttle for the right, and then driving back out. So seeing a couple different things there, depending on what bike you're on. But it's all about getting carrying speed into the chicane, then letting it slow turn point, being slower in the middle for what becomes a big drive out of the chicane.
Yep.
So
Got to update a track map there for you.
yeah, boom, just like that. Yeah, then out of the chicane, we're using all the track out to the left edge. Usually that's a painted exit curb that I think every rider should be on every lap. Then you go immediately far left side back to the far right for what on the map now is three. There's usually a little bit of slowing into three before we're back on throttle to open it up between three and four. And then four, I always felt like you could get in there quicker and quicker. It's uphill. You're usually needing to brake and catch a downshift before you're kind of climbing and looking up this really steep hill, kind of leading up into four and five. But early on, it's track usage. Using all the racetrack, getting back over to the right side before three is I think pretty big. And then this reminds me of what we were saying with Barber, how in the penultimate corner. in Barber, this, we drive down the hill, we brake, catch a shift, and then tighten the radius. 3-4 here is another good example of that, where the quicker the rider, the less dramatic you'll see their bike stand up so they can brake harder, catch a shift, and then turn into what we see turn 4 on the map. The
Yep.
quicker the riders, they just make it one big radius. There's not a huge steering or lean angle input in that area there. The quicker the riders are. So, but yeah, then carrying a bunch of speed into 4, looking up the hill, steering left, looking right up this steep hill. You crest turn 5, it's completely blind. And when you look at it, it's not a sharp corner. It's kind of little kinks, 5, 4, 5, 6. 4 more of a pronounced turn, but 5, 6, not very sharp corners. So we're really just on the throttle and breathing it through there. Uh, we crest the hill in 5, and then the corner starts to kind of reveal itself. They got that like Christmas tree farm or whatever it is on the outside of turn 6 there. But then we're driving into 6, open it up, bringing it back towards turn 7. There's a corner worker station on the inside there, and that becomes one of the bigger exits. Um, this place is pretty physical too.
Yep.
When you come out of 7, you get all the way out to the edge, and they throw this little kink in there before you bring it back to the right. So it's not much of a break in this
Yeah.
first.
You're still not getting any time to, let loose and take a deep breath. You're still actively doing something almost all the way around, especially these first couple sectors.
Yeah, and then I think into the carousel, it's always hard visually down in there. It's again, it wraps around so much, and everything kind of looks pretty similar. So there's some braking markers, but driving in that early slow tip in into a fast entry into the carousel, and then starting to let it kind of drift out wide, and the smaller the bike, the earlier we'll get back down to the apex, versus the super sports kind of wrapping around the back half of the curbing in turn 8, crescent 8. Then there's that big white water tank that's there by design before this little drop down for 9. So you're just trying to get your bike pointed towards that water tank out in the distance. Pretty fun down here driving. Probably one of the coolest parts of the track is this huge downhill G out. You've seen some pretty big incidents there
Yeah.
where when it lands and they're heavy on the brakes, the thing overloads and tucks, or you'll even see it happen earlier before at the top of the hill. So then the bike and the rider accelerate down the hill and down into the gravel trap. Pretty famous crash you see in Mesa,
Yep.
crashing there, just gloves come off. Like it's a big one there, over 100 mile an hour.
Yeah. Big one if you crash there. That I think did Heron crash in that same spot as well? Uh
Yeah,
Massive
yeah.
crash in qualifying. I think that was last year. Yeah, big spot if you go down there for sure. Um,
Yeah, and all these lefts in a row. You got the right side of the tire. They can. Hey, it's been a while when you come over on the right side.
yep.
Um, but yeah, and then so you got that compression, you got that area where the car kind of G outs. If you if you were in a car right when it lands,
Yep.
you
Straight.
kind of start using some steering, and you see the thing kind of G out.
Yep.
But then into 10A, 10A, 10B, they call it here. It's, you're kind of opening up 10A a little bit. It's you're kind of diamonding off in between 10A, 10B, kind of Ving the corner,
Yep.
which is really one of the biggest drives. Starts from how you get down the hill into 9, how you enter 10A, how you get out of 10B, and wide open through turn 11, and then kind of playing with it on a super bike up and over 12, 13, super fun. Usually this is one of the rare times that you might be on the right side of the bike going to the brakes, braking and then moving the butt.
Yep.
We think of most corners and most track riding, we always move our ass on the gas. We're not braking and then moving. But
Yep.
here it's one of those rare scenarios that it's just so fast that you start braking still on the right side. If
Yep.
if you're on a fast bike, then having to move across, then having to let it drift out a little bit in the middle for 13 before you bring it back to the apex. So super fun, slow, decreasing radius, spacing out these shifts. Super great place for a little block pass. Um, just showing up, and then they got nowhere to go.
Yeah. Getting down, getting stopped. It's just kind of one of those spots. Not not many of those. Trying to think of what we would have seen in previous rounds already this year, um, that has that like perfect block pass ability. Um, a cool spot for passing, no doubt.
Yeah, you'll see how crazy things get between it. It's rare, that the quali lap and the race lap line are that much different, but you'll see a big disparity there in
Yeah.
13. If you're watching practice qualifying session versus the race, it's just a place they need to run a tighter line there in the race, or people could show up there every lap, it seems. Um, yeah, then driving out of 13, big giant exit curbing out of 13. Small bike should be out there every lap. Big bike maybe might not get all the way out there because you really got to bring it back left for 14. 14's a really, really kind of uniquely shaped corner too. Maybe even a little more dramatic on the than the track map. The way that the corner actually really opens up. I feel like we get in there a lot earlier than we think.
Yeah.
Um, again, for what they said, the ridge straight. So up on top of the hill, you got a little bit of a breathing area there. The exit curving out of 14 too, it's really wide, and then it kind of at the very end it turns into half the width, and then it chops off pretty quick. So you'll see a lot of riders if they don't get out to the edge. Uh, a little if they get out to the exit curb a little bit later, the end of the curb really comes up quick. Kind of reminds me of the final corner at New Jersey.
Yeah.
If you ever get out on that exit curbing, you realize that it's paved very early, and that the end of the curb kind of stops quickly there.
Yeah. Kayla had a big moment there last year. Uh,
Yep. Yep.
yeah, just massive. And when you think about Jersey, I always think about I think it was Hayden Gillum had a big one there at the end of one of the races. Yeah, definitely a spot that can catch you out if you just are coming out a little hot and aren't really, you get your eyes focused down the straightaway too quick and realize, oh, I'm running out of curb.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, oh, okay, here's my little chance to breathe, and now I'm in the dirt.
Whoa, yeah,
Uh,
and the bike sideways all at once. So
yep. Yeah, that's but again another bigger drive. So, we kind of look at getting out of the chicane, getting out of turn 7. Um, I'd say the drive between 10A, 10B, the drive out of 14.
yeah,
So got some bigger exits that we think about, and then, the entry speed that we carry, into turn 8, into turn 13. And 13 simply it's a slow corner. We have to let it slow in the middle. The thing is just to not overslow and feel bored on entry. That's how
yeah,
quick we can go into the corner. Um, 15 though, it's super strange corner. It feels really awkward getting in there. And it's almost like it's so slow that you feel the front tire actually, steering in like how you would when you steer around a parking lot, really low speed. So you're in there braking on the way in, and you feel the front starting to almost turn in, and it's almost like the front's folding, but really that's just how slow you're going. I think in the data it's around 30 miles per hour. Um, so
yes,
yeah, really, really strange, really kind of weird section.
yes. It's like you said, this last little bit. The track has such great flow, but the last little bit can be uh, just strange for sure.
Yeah, and then I mean, since it's so slow too, you miss braking markers by a little bit. Really throws things off, and um, I would say you can kind of block past somebody if you get alongside of them, but you see it all the time where rider goes in and then they just simply can't get it slowed. They run wide, they give the pass right back.
Yep.
Um, then coming down the hill, got a little bit of an acceleration zone, but right back on the brakes. Maybe, maybe mid track entering turn 16. No reason to get back all the way to the far left side. You can open it up a little bit, but 16, another area, I think like 13, and maybe blind up over, 5, 6, where riders can lose the front, which we hear that happens there commonly, kind of underloaded, cold tire crash, like at a track day. But I think besides that, 13 underloaded front tire crash, and then 16, um, I think are some of the biggest crash areas. Definitely 15, slowest corner in the track. That's always the case. The slowest corner is going to have issues. People try to take risks there. Feels like you're going slow, feels like you're doing something wrong, but it's a slow corner, right? So, um, but yeah, 16's tricky because of how bumpy it is. Bumpiest corner in the track for sure. We were talking earlier about having the cars when they G out and they scrape and they put kind of damage into the track too. It commonly is one of the uh first places on the track that's repaired or patched. So
Yep.
16's bumpy, and you're thinking about accelerating with the plan to brake and load the front into 16. It's so easy to overload it there, or to go in a track day rider, with no brakes, and then the thing's underloaded, and then when it tries to take the load, it's kind of an underloaded cold front tuck.
Yep.
um, So yeah, I see a lot of issues there at track days as well,
Yep.
and even in Moto America. You go out and at the end of the quali on Friday and the afternoon, and you end up seeing all those crash marks right there. So that's kind of a tricky spot.
Yep. Yeah, it just seems like the slow sections, as we've kind of always preached in champ school, is like slow corner is a slow corner, man, and it can catch you out trying to get through some of these tighter spots. Trying to make up time because you feel like you're going slow, but yeah, slow corner, and something to not forget going into the ridge. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, at any point, there's time to be made up by trying to compress these braking zones. But
Yep.
how quick we go through the center of 15, you can only go so fast through there. So it's not really trying to up the speed in the middle of 15. It's just trying to get there quicker, get away from it quicker.
Yep.
Um, they coming out of 16, little bit of a drive, accelerating out before we're back in the brakes. Even on the R7, I was going back up to the brakes for 17. A little bit of a beeline, 16 to 17, then letting it drift out, starting to try to bring it back, and just starting to try to get this drive started as soon as you can, for this drive down the front stretch.
Yep.
18 was one of those curbs too that was pretty chopped. So if you catch too much of that, bike gets all out of shape.
Yep.
Um, I think Talent Cup is going there too. Like Talent Cup, those bikes, they're going to start the drive a little earlier out of 17. They might drift out towards that 18 curbing. But if you can get your drive started and not have to breathe it at all for 18, that works out. So
Yep.
sometimes riders will kind of over analyze how straight the bike needs to be before 17, 18. But on a little bike, if you can get away with it and not have to breathe it at all through 18, life is good. So bigger bikes really becomes more and more straight line kind of, desired from 17, 18.
Yep.
Um, yeah, then you got a breath. You can check out the pit board, see how much time's left, and fire off another lap.
Yeah. Sweet. Um, Bike balance wise, what do you think about coming into here? Is it a tough place to get a setup going? I mean, obviously chassis seems to be rewarded here. Um, so we're gonna see, in my mind, we're gonna see the Yamaha, the BMW, um, in a pretty good spot this weekend. But what do you think bike balance wise, getting the setup right, coming in here?
Yeah, kind of like with Barber, you got elevation and you got these G outs. You got fast stuff on the side of the tire. So thinking about like through the carousel, if you're trying to be out, it's so early through the carousel that you're starting to try to drive it. So you really see how if your bike can still be, tightening, still seeking a good radius while you're trying to build throttle. So a couple of these areas is good for seeing how well the bike can deal with that. How early you can start picking up the throttle out of the final two corners.
Yep.
Um, but then you've got the hard braking. You've got the hard braking into the chicane, into turn 15 at the top of the hill, and so you need some support there. It's trying to find that balance so you're close with where the front and the rear should be, ideally early on. But
Yep.
now, I mean, all these teams, they've got all this data. I think when you look at a whole team and you look at all the bikes, if everyone can be close to a window, with the front and the rear, then it just becomes kind of fine tuning, which I think we'll see with Super Sport. How much does Cam Peterson have on the Ducati and Superbike? How much data will he have from a V4 at the Ridge? How much support is he getting from Ducati? Like,
Yep.
so some of those kind of unique um, boxes might struggle a little bit.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
yeah,
Think
because
about like
this is a big one.
The V4, right? Like you think about they don't have any data coming in here for the new V4 for Baz and PJ
Yeah.
and Benjamin Smith. So yeah, interesting stuff all around. I'll pull this lap back up one more time and we'll blast through it one more time and just wrap our heads around what we've made of the track map.
Yeah, so the head's turning pretty early, but the bike's still staying out wide. And then we're coming across, jumping this curve, steering left, looking right. Looks like Andy's staying off of it. It's still probably looks like it's pretty dirty. Then just going curb to curb, driving it in here. See, not a huge lean angle adjustment. Brakes, shift, back across, steering left, looking right, driving up over the hill, steering right, looking left. Now kind of looking out to the edge of the track before we start bringing it back. Here's where there's a little bit of a kink that kind of gets more physical later in the race. Back across to the left. Here, long, smooth, light braking, fast entry. See how he's letting it drift out. Now you're looking up for that white water tank, big kind of rectangle tower. There it is. Nice straight line right for that. Here's that compression, kind of bringing it in, letting it drift out slightly, bringing it back across. Really easy to try to rush in the center there. Then just here, just traditional curb to curb to curb, inside, outside, back inside, sitting up on the brakes around in that curbing, back across, letting it open up, tighten it back up, using some track out there to the right, but immediately back over to the left. And it starts going a little bit back uphill for what we would call 14 there as well. Back left side to right side, straight up and down, just trying to get it stopped. And then here, like maybe right center, entering the track, little G out, straight line, curb to curb, letting it drift out, looking way up left, and then really firing this straight line down back towards the chicane.
Perfect. Nice. I was a 44 flat without the chicane, I believe. Don't think we had no chicane. Or is that the chicane there? Yeah, here we
That
go.
sounds about right.
Yep. 44 flat.
Yeah, even entering the chicane, like you can see how uphill it
Yep.
goes into the right hander. That's why walking the track is so big. And sometimes when we walk the track, we'll stop and look at a corner. We'll kind of turn around and look at the corner backwards where you can see maybe a little bit more of that elevation. So any little thing you can do to give yourself a little more camber, see if a corner's flatter, we might be lighting the tire off a little bit more on entry or on exit. But yeah, seeing where it's banked, seeing where it's uphill, downhill, this track's got a lot of that. So trying to utilize any little bit you can. It's kind of tough to get to and it's out there, but
Yep.
at the Ridge, the fans have been coming out more and more. And I think with the calendar and the series being as competitive as it's been in a while, should just bring more and more people out. So
Yep.
no, excited for the weekend.
Yeah, sweet. Well, thanks, dude. Appreciate you as always. And we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, man.
Thanks so much for listening. If you made it this far, we can't thank you enough. One last sponsor shout out to our friends at Sansotta's Fresh Italian. If you know, you know. If you don't, Sansotta's is all about doing things the right way. Fresh ingredients, authentic recipes, no shortcuts. Whether it's pasta, pizza, salad, subs, or catering for your next event, it's real Italian food made with intention. If you're around for Mid-Ohio or racing flat track nearby at Harbster, which is about 15 minutes up the road, make sure to check out Sansotta's Fresh Italian. There's still time. If you're listening to this in June of 2026, there's still time to get some catering orders in for Mid-Ohio. We would love to bring food to you at the track to fuel the team. Yeah, reach out. Anthony at roadracereport.com or Sansottas Fresh Italian at gmail.com. Thanks again for supporting us. Sansotta's obviously family restaurant for myself. And your support goes a long way. Thank you.